Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Motivational Monday. My name is Kira. I'm your host, and we are coming up to the end of our Healing Power series. And today's episode is going to be about the healing power of sleep. This is a conversation I've been wanting to have for quite some time, and it was paired really beautifully with this month's Being Human First episode about self-care, where we actually dove in a little bit about sleep. Dr. Dave, the VP of our guides community, he has studied with a sleep specialist, and he shared a lot of wisdom. But I think one of the most profound things from that session was the amount of comments that we got where people said, I wish that I got 8 hours of sleep. Um, what else did they say? They were like, that sounds nice, the idea of getting that much sleep. And, it felt like it wasn't realistic and it felt like it wasn't a priority. And I understand that. I feel like in our society, we have demonized sleep and we've placed productivity over sleep, which I was just watching YouTube videos on sleep this morning, getting ready for this session. And I it used to be, and you still see this a little bit in European cultures where they have their siesta midday and they take a nap and they rest. But it used to be where we would go to bed naturally and wake up naturally and then start the productivity. We didn't necessarily have bosses or expectations. We were all doing our own things, right? Like we were blacksmiths or we were farmers or I don't know what else people did back then. Maybe I should get a little more educated on that. But we didn't have all of the expectations that we have now, and we didn't have the significant expectations of productivity that we have now that have made us think that sleep isn't as important as it is. But it leads to a lot of different issues, a lot of health issues, mental issues, body issues. The list goes on and on when we don't get enough sleep. So we are going to be diving into the healing power of sleep. And as per usual with this healing power series, I do have a YouTube video that we'll watch. I watched a bunch of videos. There were a lot that were okay. And then I found one that was so good. So we'll dive into that as well. And this is also a little bit spurred on by the fact that I've got two main goals in my life right now: learning Spanish and getting more sleep. Now, in this, I don't necessarily talk about how many hours of sleep we're supposed to be getting, things along those lines, because there have been studies that have been starting to be done comparing the amount of sleep that men need to the amount of sleep that women need and to the effects of less sleep in both genders. And then also the recovery time if your sleep is disrupted or if you're not getting enough sleep in both genders, and it varies significantly. We are alike in a lot of different ways, men and women, but also biologically we do have differences. Women's hormones fluctuate every 28 days, men's hormones fluctuate usually every 24 hours. So there's more consistency, there's more stability, where for women, we have much wider and longer fluctuations that happen, and hormones that are only produced during certain parts of our cycle, during certain weeks or certain days. So there are different effects on that. So we're not going to dive into that because that would have been a much longer conversation. But I think the first thing I'll say is that women are supposed to get anywhere from like 9 to 10 hours of sleep, men anywhere from maybe like 7 to 9. So that in and of itself is really important. And then also when we are actually on our cycle, we're also supposed to be getting more sleep as well because our body is doing a lot of work on the inside. But that's enough about that. We'll dive into some of the notes. We'll dive into the YouTube video. And before we even do that though, I'm very, very, very curious. I have some questions for you. Drop 111 in the chat if you feel like you get enough sleep every night. And drop 222 in the chat if you feel like you don't get enough sleep every night. Yeah, a lot of 222s. A majority of people saying that they feel like they don't get enough sleep every night. Okay. 1.5, I love it. Another question I have for you is how many hours of sleep are you actually getting per evening? I used to get like 4 to 6 hours of sleep and I thought it was great. I thought I was doing so good. I was so productive. I was working 16-hour days. I was hardly getting any sleep. 7 to 8, 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours. I feel you. 4 hours, 5 to 6 interrupted. Lucky if I can get to sleep 5. Yeah. There was another question I was going to ask. What what do you think, for those of you who don't get enough sleep, what do you think is stopping you from getting enough sleep? Is it your own mindset around sleep? Is it your Yeah, is it your mindset around sleep? Is it not having a schedule? Are you waking up in the middle of the night? Are you waking up like parched and thirsty in the middle of the night? Do you have restless legs? Do you have a ridiculous amount of thoughts that you can never turn off? Do you have nightmares? I'm curious. And then we'll dive in. I mean, we're already diving in. Trying to maximize everything I need to do, so I try to go, go, go until I simply can't anymore. My teenage kids. Brain, bio breaks, cats. Oh, the cats. Oh, the cats. I've got one dog who like bundles into me and like makes it so that I can't move during the night. And I notice I've started making her not sleep next to me, which I feel bad because I love her and I love cuddling with her, but I just wake up so much more during the night when I'm cuddling with her and I'm like, "Girl, my sleep is one of my top priorities right now. We gotta switch some things up." But I think Mimi, what you said, trying to maximize everything I need to do so I can try to go, go, go until I simply can't anymore. So we talked a little bit about some areas similar to this in January, where we talked about urgency culture and we talked about burnout. So if we're not getting enough sleep, we're also probably making ourselves get closer and closer to burnout, which burnout, it's a really interesting phenomenon because we want to do so much and we want to be so productive and we feel like we don't have enough hours in the day and we feel like we have so much more work than we have the ability to do. And we don't realize the humanness of that we have a limited capacity. But when we reach burnout, it takes us significantly more energy to do simple tasks. So when we're reaching this point where we're just working until exhaustion and we're doing and doing and doing, we're actually using more energy to get less done and doing it less effectively. So I know that we do have this narrative of like work, 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 hustle, 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 don't sleep, get some sleep when you can, but like other than that, it's not a main priority. But what you're doing is if you were to get more sleep, and if you were to prioritize that, you would be so much more productive throughout your days. You would get more done and you would feel better about what you do as well because it's coming from a place of wholeness instead of a place of scarcity and I don't have enough time and I just need to get things done and not prioritizing your well-being. And we're going to learn there are like a significant amount of health effects that are contributed to sleep deprivation. And for me, I don't know about you all, one of my top values in life is health. I know that I will be able to live a long and fruitful and prosperous life if I focus on my health. And I feel like we sometimes forget that our health is all we have. When we forget about our health until we don't have our health, right? But as soon as our health goes downhill, our money doesn't matter, our cars don't matter, our homes don't matter. We want to live a longer life, but the way that we live a longer life um is not necessarily in reaction. It's in proactiveness, right? So I say all of this because I just set the intention at the beginning of this month, learning Spanish. My life is very, very focused right now. Learning Spanish and sleeping, top priorities, right? So I have to get enough sleep and I have to build learning Spanish in. And for the first 2 weeks, I was doing so well. I was on top of it. I was retaining so much Spanish. And the way that I'm learning is through habits and through neuroscience and through repetition in a way that makes it conversational and makes you able to speak it. So I was doing really well and I could notice the significant progress. And then last week, I could not sleep for the life of me. I always take magnesium, which helps produce melatonin in the body. I have these glasses, which I wanted to show you. These are 100% red light blockers. So I don't wear these during the day, but I wear these at night because I still work at night. I still use my phone at night. But these block 100% of blue rays, and blue rays actually turn off your body's production for melatonin, and melatonin is what helps you naturally fall asleep. Our melatonin production in our body is very, very, very light sensitive. And if we have the blue lights disrupting our sleep, then we're not going to get a full sleep, and our body doesn't actually have the hormones needed to put us in a healthy, restful, productive sleep. So I'm doing all the things. I can't sleep. Last week, I was basically a zombie. And by the time that Thursday and Friday came around for my Spanish lessons, I do them at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's like the first thing that I do. It's the first thing that I imprint in my mind. I could not retain any information. And I was a zombie. Like, I could not get anything done. I was not productive. I could not remember Spanish. I could not speak it. And the weeks prior, I was so on fire with it. And it showed me just how important sleep is, even to our cognitive functions. So I say all of that to say that there's a lot that happens with sleep, and it's really important. And Jessica just suggested a book, which I just heard about last week as well. It's a book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. And Mimi says she noticed this happens when her daughter has a lot of homework and projects. It's been like this for the last 45 days. You're definitely preaching to the choir. It's real. I've heard about how important sleep is for so long, and health has been a top priority for me for forever, but I did not consider sleep a part of health until I started coming across studies about how significantly important sleep is for women and just people in general, but women specific studies like super piqued my interest. And I was like, oh, holy cannoli. There's a whole nother part of my life to drop into. And like when I get a good night's sleep, drop 333 in the chat if you know the feeling of getting a good night's sleep and waking up feeling like you're so fresh and so ready and so reset. Yeah, that's actually what we're supposed to be feeling on a daily basis. When we get enough sleep, that is a daily feeling, and that is what our brain is literally resetting throughout the night. But if we're not getting enough sleep, we're not able to. So that feeling is not meant to be a fleeting feeling, and it's not meant to be something that's temporary. It's supposed to be something that's there every morning, where we're like, oh my gosh, I feel so rested, I feel so good, I'm ready to conquer the day. And imagine just how more productive and happy and efficient you would be if you woke up feeling like that versus waking up feeling like you got no sleep and you're exhausted and you have to run on the rat race again. I experience this on the weekends when I sleep in. I love that. Love that. Let's work on that on the weekdays. Okay. So sleep is a basic human need. We know this. It's like breathing, it's like drinking water, it's like eating. We just need it simply to exist. So that feeling that we talk about is that feeling when you're awake depends on the quality of sleep that you get at night. So getting inadequate sleep over an extended period of time can actually lead to chronic health issues. A lot of them. And the video that we're about to watch will tell us quite a few of them. But things like heart disease, kidney disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, obesity, and depression. And in older adults, it can also lead to falls and more broken bones. And a lot of these diseases that we see here, heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, a lot of those are like the top reasons why people are dying in our country right now, right? So if we start to contribute sleep to better health and to less possibility of having these diseases that take our lives way too soon, then we start setting ourselves up to live a very fruitful, long, healthy life. This video is really good. When I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is good.
Every night, almost everyone on the planet enters into a state of unconsciousness and paralysis. But what is really happening inside the body when we drift off? And what's the impact if we don't get enough sleep? Sleep is regulated by your circadian rhythm, or body clock, located in the brain. The body clock responds to light cues, ramping up production of the hormone melatonin at night and switching it off when it senses light. There are 4 stages of sleep that the body experiences and cycles throughout the night. On a good night, we cycle through these stages 4 or 5 times. Stages 1 and 2 are light sleep. This is a transition from being awake to falling asleep. Heart rate and breathing begin to slow, body temperature falls, and muscles may twitch. Stage 3 is sometimes referred to as delta sleep because of the slow delta brainwaves that are released during this stage. This is the first stage of deep sleep, where our cells produce the most growth hormone to service bones and muscles, allowing the body to repair itself. Stage 4 is where we begin to dream. The body creates chemicals that render it temporarily paralyzed, so that we do not act out our dreams. In this stage, the brain is extremely active, and our eyes, although closed, dart back and forth as if we were awake. Humans roughly spend 1/3 of their lives asleep. Modern lifestyles, stress, and the proliferation of technology mean that people are sleeping far less today than they were a century ago. Sleeping less than 7 hours per day is associated with an increased risk of developing chronic conditions, which could reduce life expectancy. So for a healthier, longer life, get some shut-eye.
So, sleep is important, incredibly important. And I watched quite a few videos. That was the best one that I found, but there were some other things in the videos that were really, really cool. So, the way that it works is we have non-rapid eye movement and rapid eye movement, non-REM and REM. Now, we cycle through non-REM and REM, those 4 stages, every 90-ish minutes. So every 90 minutes, we're restarting that cycle over. And what happens in REM sleep, we get less REM sleep in the beginning 4 hours of our sleep. And we get more REM sleep in the later 4 hours of our sleep. So what that means is during those 90-minute cycles in the beginning of our sleep, we're getting more non-REM sleep. And then in the later stages of sleeping, those 90 minutes, more of that time in that 90 minutes is spent in REM sleep. Now, REM sleep is incredibly important for the brain because what happens is the cells in the brain actually shrink to like 60, they shrink 60%. So they're at about 40% of their normal size. And what happens is there's cerebral spinal fluid that flushes through the brain and begins to clear out all of the toxins, all of the junk, all the things that don't belong there. And it's the only part of our day where our brains actually get a break and get to be cleansed and detoxed because our brains are working at all times, right? So it's a really important time of day, but also REM sleep is when our memories are formed. Whether it's short-term memory or long-term memory, our memories are being formed during REM sleep. So if we say that you're only getting 4 to 6 hours of sleep, right? If you're getting mostly non-REM sleep in those beginning stages of your sleep cycles, then you're not getting the REM sleep. And that might be why it could be why you're getting headaches. It could be why you don't have a good memory. It could be why you're emotionally stressed and fatigued because that cerebral spinal fluid is cleansing everything out in your brain and resetting you. But if you don't have that reset, you're taking so many things from so long ago and continuing to bring it into the next days and the next days and the next days. So getting that extended period of sleep, 8 hours or more, is significant in the way that your brain works, and getting REM sleep is so important. What it's cleansing out also is these proteins that if they stay in your brain, they will give you a significantly higher risk of developing Alzheimer's or dementia if you are not getting REM sleep where your body is able to cleanse the brain out. So There are a lot of reasons to prioritize sleep. And I know sometimes in our day-to-day lives, we like this instant gratification of getting things done and being productive and checking off our to-do list. But usually, what we see is that the list never ends. So we're never getting any sort of like real satisfaction, but we're also putting our longevity as human beings at risk as well. So if we start focusing on delayed gratification, the idea that the work that we put in now is going to give us significant and greater results down the road, then we start prioritizing things like sleep. And we start making sure that we're putting in that work and making it a priority. Because if having a long, beautiful life, making memories with people that you love, being able to meet your grandchildren or meet your friends' children, or I don't know, see all of these things in the world, if those are your goals in this life, then you're going to have to be around and be healthy to experience and execute on all of that. So that's the delayed gratification, is seeing how you can improve your longevity. And we didn't even get into like the stress and all the other things that sleep also helps with too. But overall, sleep is incredibly important. So that's kind of all I have for today. This is one of our shorter motivational Mondays, but if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat. I'll give us another moment before we close out. Or if you have any comments, or if you have any feedback, or literally anything, you can drop it in the chat and I'll just look at my notes and make sure that we covered everything. But I'm pretty sure we did. Oh, there's one other thing that I thought was really cool as well. So, sleep affects metabolism and fat storage. So, I had a friend who was telling me that like the most important thing and the only thing that's the most important thing is being in a caloric deficit to lose weight. But and I know that the body is so much more complex than that. So I've been like looking and like searching for answers beyond that. And what happens is if we don't get enough quality sleep, we can it can lead to the overproduction of hunger hormones, which leads to overeating. Will usually be triggered to eat salty or sugary foods. It also leads to a decreased ability to respond to insulin, which we know ends up being a diabetes problem, and then also decreased physical activity. So, getting enough sleep also helps your metabolism, helps the way your body processes things, but also allows you to stay in a place where your body is healthy and feeling good as well. But that was the last note that I had. So outside of that, thank you all so much for being here. Happy Motivational Monday. I hope that you get more sleep this week. I like the Motivational Monday series was birthed to give you guys something really cool and tangible to hold on to throughout the week, not only just for this 20 minutes, but throughout the week. So find the ways where you can prioritize your sleep a little bit more, or maybe just this week you're finding the ways that you're not prioritizing your sleep and you're starting to think about what you can do for the future. Because undoing habits takes some time too. So, the one thing I would say is like be realistic with yourself, meet yourself where you're at, and start putting in little things that'll get you to where you want to be long term. Okay, everyone, have the most beautiful Monday. I will see you next week for Motivational Monday. And until then, I hope you get lots and lots of sleep and feel really good and rested and reset. And thank you all for joining me as usual. Bye, everyone.